And to discuss that proposal, I'm going to yield 4 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New Hampshire, a leader on this issue, Ms. Kuster.
The gentlelady from New Hampshire is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to all of my colleagues for the bipartisan work that's happening this week. I'm proud to be a co-chair with my colleague from New Hampshire, Mr. Ginta, of the bipartisan task force to combat the heroin epidemic. Members of Congress from all across the country coming together to address this crisis. I rise, however, to oppose the rule, and as Mr. McGovern has said, we intend to move the previous question, and I am bringing to the House floor a Democratic substitute opiates package to include $600 million in critical funding to address this opioid epidemic. We have an emergency. People are dying. As Mr. Ginta said, in my own state, our state of New Hampshire, over 420 people in 1 year. We have a better chance in New Hampshire of dying from an opioid epidemic death, from fentanyl, from heroin, from drugs off the street, than we do of dying in a car accident. This is an emergency and it's a crisis. My substitute amendment bill will provide vital funding for all of the bills that we're discussing, for bills that will provide the grants the Judiciary Committee has brought forth in H.R. 5046 for Mr. Sensenbrenner, for law enforcement, for drug courts. I've just this week been to the graduation of a drug court. We can turn lives around, but we need funding for drug courts to spread all across our country. For the good work that my colleagues, Ms. Brooks and Mr. Kennedy, put into the Energy and Commerce Bill, H.R. 4641, to create the task force. Mr. Ginta and I had an original bill, the Stop Abuse Act, that created a task force, and we're so pleased that that task force will move forward. We need to bring together the experts to determine why now, what is happening in our society that opiate overdoses are leading this addiction, this substance use disorder that's a disease, leading people to go from prescribed medication from their physician into heroin off the streets. And in our state, now being laced with fentanyl, that is a lethal combination. The substitute will provide a total of $600 million in vital new resources to address this epidemic. And my understanding is that we have not included this funding in these underlying bills. We want to support the underlying bills, but it's critical to have the funding. New Hampshire has now gone from number 24 in the nation in deaths per population to number 3, seemingly overnight. I've traveled around my district bringing together stakeholders, law enforcement, treatment providers, long-term recovery, which is a critical aspect of this, physicians, hospitals, police, everyone to the table. In Keene, in Nashua, in Concord, in the North Country of our state. We now have mayor's committees. We have the governor having a major summit this week. And here's the answer. We have solutions. I serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I was so proud to bring to one of our Congressional Task Force hearings Dr. Julie Franklin from White River Junction, Vermont, VA, who is doing critical frontline research with veterans who are experiencing chronic pain. This is lifelong pain. And she has worked with them with acupuncture, with mental health treatment, with physical therapy, with all different kinds of wellness and yoga. And she has decreased the use of opiate medication by 50%. We can do this, but we need funding. So I urge you to vote no on the rule and to ask my colleagues to please support the substitute package that will include a critical $600 million in funding. And thank you for your time.